Today, in this video, we are going to be looking at double fertilization in flowering plants. Now, flowering plants like angiosperm, they undergo a kind of double fertilization. Now, why is it double fertilization? Yes, it's double fertilization because the the male gamete has to fertilize the nucleus, the egg, and the definitive nucleus. The egg, that is the ovum, and the definitive nucleus. Now, this is the process that leads to that. Now, we are going to be looking at, we're going to start by looking at the structure of the what? The pollen grain. This is the pollen grain. What we have here is the pollen tube nucleus and then generative nucleus. Then we have the Exine. Then the next one we have is the internal part of the pollen grain is what we call the Intine. The external part is what we call the Exine. So now what happens is that during pollination, after pollination, the next thing that happens is that the pollen grain will start absorbing fluids. It start absorbing fluids, sugary substances in the what? In the stigma. When this thing starts, what will happen is that the pollen grain will then develop a tube known as what? Pollen tube. This pollen tube is what we have here now. And before that, while that thing is going on, this generative nucleus will undergo mitotic division. It will divide into two, giving us two male gametes. That is what we have here, following the pollen, the tube nucleus. As the tube nucleus is parting the way for them to find their way into the what? The ovary, because what they are doing now is that they are locating to the ovary. I want to give you a bigger drawing of what happened inside the stigma and the ovary. Let's see how we can do that. Let me save some time. So this is the drawing of the stigma. This is the stigma, and what we have here is the pollen grain. So the previous drawing has to do with what really happened between here when it when the pollination just took place, and what happened after that moment. Because after that moment, what happens is that this will start absorbing fluids. As it absorbing fluids, the generative nucleus will what? Undergo mitosis, and then divide into two male gametes. Why that tube nucleus will then part away, forming the what? The pollen tube. As they grow into this style of the pistil, as they are growing into this style of the pistil, the two male gametes will follow behind. They will follow behind. And what is happening here? Once they are going there, they will be moving straight into the what? Into this embryo sac. This is the embryo sac. Now, they find their way to the embryo sac through the what? Micropyle. This micropyle is where they find their way into the what? The embryo or the egg inside there. So when they get to the egg there, what happens is the first male gamete there will do what? Fertilize this egg. It will fertilize the egg. This is the egg. Once the egg is fertilized, the second one will locate this end. This one will form the zygote. The egg will form the zygote. While this other one, the definitive nucleus will form the what we call the endosperm of the fruit. Once this thing happens, the next thing that will follow suit is that the whole formation will change. This other area will dry up because their function, they have completed their duty of making sure the fertilization took place. So immediately the thing is completed, what happened? All of them will disappear. This one will form the embryo, this will form the seed, while the whole of this place will then form the what? The fruit. This is just a summary of what really happened when we talk about what really happened, or the process of what? Double fertilization in what? In flowering plants. Now note something that you should take away here. There's something I want to let you know. Before this pollination, this fertilization will take place, or the growth will happen, two things must occur, must happen. One, the pollen and the stigma, they must match. They must match. If they are not, compatible, the pollen will not what? Germinate. The second thing is that the stigma must also be matured. If it's not matured enough, nothing will ever happen. These are the two things you should note before what? The fertilization will take place, because even though the pollen can fall on any of them, but once that stigma is not matured, nothing will ever occur. These are the two things you should know. And again, they must be of the same plant or same species. They must match, as in they are the pollen grain and the stigma. They must be they match enough. They will match so that the process will take place effectively. So this is where I want to leave you. So thank you so much for being part of the class. And if you're joining for the first time, we want to encourage you to subscribe, like, and if you have a question, you leave it in the comment section. They will always attend to you. Thank you.